Hello, folks. I have a question here. A very nice question. Finding the T2 because it's sometimes confusing which one is T1, which one is T2. There isn't a systematic way that will work every time that I know of. But generally, this is what you do. You figure out what do they want. In this case, it's the temperature. And then to figure out which temperature is which, you have to look at the verb tense. So the verb tense is, the verb here is will be. So that indicates the future. So that means the temperature that they want is the T2 because it's associated with some future idea. Will the pressure inside the cylinder be? So the T2 is what we want. You know it's not the T1 because the T1 is something that either happened in the past or happened in the present. It just can't be something in the future. This 221K, at 221K, the pressure is. So this verb is, and that indicates something that's not the future. So now, is it always the case that the future tense is going to indicate the T2 or the P2 or the V2? No, that's not always the case. You just have to figure out from the English which temperature or which pressure or which volume happened after, or which temperature, which pressure or which volume is going to happen in the future. Those things are the T2 or the V2 or the P2. Now, here we have 1.90 atm. Is that the P1 or is it the P2? Well, it's associated with this verb is, so it might be P1. Now, this 2.35 atmospheres, this is associated with the verb will be. So this one must be P2. If this is P2, then the other one must be P1. So the P2 was 2.35 atmospheres, and the P1 was 1.90 atmospheres. So this is known as Gay-Lussac's law. You don't actually need to know the name of the law unless you are answering a multiple choice question. But this is not a multiple choice question, so all you need to do is solve for this guy. To do that, I'll multiply that guy on both sides. So they cancel on this side. Now it's only on here. So to rewrite that equation, it's T2 times P1 over T1 equals P2. Now I need to get this guy alone, so I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the other guy, which is T1 over P1. And that's going to cancel these guys out, and it's going to cancel these guys out, so T2 will be alone. So I end up with T2 equals P2 T1 P1. So this T2 equals the P2, which was 2.35 atmospheres, times the T1, which was 221 Kelvin. Sorry, it's getting messy here, but I think you, at this point, you know what's going on, right? This is 1.90 atmospheres. So 2.35 times 221 divided by 1.90. So 2.35 times 221 divided by 1.90. It's 273 Kelvin at 3 significant figures. It's 273 Kelvin, a chilly 273 Kelvin. Does it make sense? Let's see if it makes sense. This T2 represents an increase in temperature. The only way to get an increase in temperature if you're only dealing with P and T is to have an increase of pressure. Did the pressure increase? Yes, the pressure did increase. So that's good. This answer makes sense. 273 Kelvin. And that is the answer on the WebAssign, which you actually got right. But this is the way to figure out who is T1 and T2, who is P1 and P2. In this particular problem, it was by looking at the future tense. Now, in some problems, you just have to read the English more carefully because sometimes it's all written in the present tense. Sometimes it's easier because the T1 is in the past tense and the T2 is in the present tense. You just have to figure out what happened first and what happened last. Thank you for your question. That is a great question. I'm sorry that there is no more systematic or straightforward answer.